understanding and overcoming arm fat and other menopausal tricks of the trade. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about a topic that probably resonates with many of us, especially women. Struggle with the middle-aged fatty arms. I'll share my personal journey, the hormonal changes that contributed to this issue, but most importantly, how we can tackle it effectively. A personal struggle, chapter 1. My arms had been a source of disappointment and embarrassment for me after going through my menopause, which had started in my early 40s. It was pretty early for me. In my 20s to 40s, I had lean, muscular arms, even though the rest of me, in my crazy mixed up head, was far from my idea of perfect. I always had really terrible self-image. But I loved going sleeveless, and then seemingly overnight in my mid-40s I noticed my arms had developed cellulite and had got larger and wobblier, and I spent over 2 years trying to improve them, working on improving them with the same old diet and exercise routines which had previously worked well for me when I was younger. I then wore a strappy summer dress to my eldest daughter's wedding when I was 50, and afterwards, I just wanted to crop those dimply arms out of every photo. It was mortifying. They were just another outward symbol of how I felt I was losing control of my body on just about every level. Even though my job kept me physically fit and active, it just felt like no matter how much weight I could lose or how much exercise I did, my arms still traitorously let me down. The skin was loose, they like too big, they were almost crepey. And it just led me to just cover them up even during heat waves. Nobody was going to see them. I began studying other women's arms, as you do. And I noticed that even slim people around my age also had these old crepey wobbles. It seems that arm cellulite could affect anyone regardless of age or overall size, which was very, very depressing. Understanding the causes, what causes this issue, and the more general issue of just increasing body fat and decreasing muscle tone in our midlife, as it's often referred to. It did take me a good few years to get to the bottom of this particular problem, and it wasn't really until spring of last year, after I joined Candy Fraser's Primal Bod program, that I really started to get some traction. And I felt like I finally understood what was causing the fat arms issue, and more importantly, how I could bloody well fix it. Let me introduce myself for those of you who might not have met me before. My name's Emma Voysey, and this YouTube channel tells my story, my rocky journey, why I'm now sharing that knowledge to help other people and hopefully to enable other people to avoid the lengthy and pothole-strewn path that I have travelled. I was a flabby postmenopausal woman with major gut issues, joint pain, brain fog, food addictions, and an eating disorder which had dogged me pretty much since my early teens. I was just expecting the inevitable decline into old age. I felt like I was just losing this lifelong battle with my body and my head. But today I am fit and healthy with the best mental health of my whole life, and I certainly don't accept anymore that my age has anything to do with my health span. Back to that arm problem. It turns out that hormonal changes which start from around age 35 to 38 play a significant role. As we approach menopause, which can be as early as our mid-30s, I know, like mid-30s, some of us may not have even begun thinking about having a family at this point. As we transition to this time in our biology, our ovaries gradually slow down and they head towards eventually stopping functioning and no longer releasing an egg each month. Once that happens, our bodies shift over to using our adrenal hormones instead. Our adrenal glands, there's 2 of them, sit on top of each of our kidneys like 2 little hats, and they work slavishly hard for us all of our lives, and once we enter menopause their job suddenly gets even harder. Our ovaries, which helpfully at this point have thrown in the towel and announced to the world, that's all, end of the line for us, we're not doing any more work, over to you adrenals. And just like that, our childbearing years are over. That's it, they're finished. If there are any problems with our adrenal function before menopause, it can exacerbate those menopausal symptoms, which so many of us end up suffering with. And the kind of things which exhaust our adrenals, that's where the word adrenaline comes from, are stress and drinking too many stimulants like coffee or tea or taking drugs, because the adrenals are dealing with all of that. And several other hormones also decrease during this pivotal time, which include testosterone. We've got that too. It's not just a male domain. It helps maintain our lean body mass, and interestingly also helps with spatial awareness, a skill we need when we're parallel parking, for example. DHEA. I won't go into what that stands for. It's a really long word. You can look it up. A pre-hormone that supports the production of our other hormones. Also estrogen and progesterone, both essential for our fertility and our menstrual cycles. The most crucial one impacting the skin structure is human growth hormone, HGH. We'll just call it HGH for simplicity, but it stands for human growth hormone. Don't worry, there's not going to be a test at the end of this. While HGH is vital for growth in children, in adults it helps with fat burning, muscle maintenance and collagen production. And when you hear that word collagen, you probably think about skin, our biggest organ. As we age, HGH levels drop significantly, and this potentially leads to this saggy, baggy skin, and in my case that dreaded arm fat. The downside of these hormonal changes. And what can we do about it? Whilst synthetic HGH injections are an option, they're also eye-wateringly expensive for most mere mortals. And like so many other wonder drugs, they can lead to dependency and some really nasty side effects. You've got your hormone replacement therapy. It's another route, but it can and it will confuse your natural hormone production, which means that your body will just simply stop producing any of its own hormones at all. Our amazing bodies are incredibly efficient, and they don't do a job unless it's absolutely necessary. After the scares of the 90s, I'd long ago decided that HRT just wasn't going to be an option for me, and I do continue with that stance, that belief for myself today. But having said that, I absolutely appreciate that for some women, HRT is a lifesaver, and it enables them to lead a normal life instead of being torn apart by their monstrous menopausal symptoms. With everything, there's just no one size fits all. You have to try and figure out what works for you, and just like I did, I absolutely don't stand in judgment on this topic. Back to those hard-working adrenals, those little shirkers. They will hop on any excuse to have less to do. But to be fair to them, as I previously mentioned, by the time that you get to menopause, they are often more worn out than a pair of donkeys who cart tourists on a blazing Mediterranean beach in July. If we put those bioidentical synthetic hormones, the HRT, into our bodies, those adrenals are going to happily hand over the reins, meaning that we then have to potentially rely on that HRT for the rest of our lives. The real issue lies, obviously, as always, in finding a balance between low human growth hormone and high cortisol levels. Cortisol being one of our stress hormones, another one is adrenaline. So excess cortisol is going to break down your muscle proteins much faster than they can be rebuilt, which leads to that body-wide sagging skin, flab, dreaded arm fat that we all recognise as one of the, or certainly one of the most regular symptoms that comes along in menopause. I've called this next section, Don't Give Me Problems, Give Me Solutions. Don't panic, because there are effective strategies to address this situation. And despite all the stuff I've just told you, it's not all doom and gloom. I've proven this for myself, and I'm now going to reveal to you how I fixed things. Here's what you can do. Number 1, low intensity exercise. Start with low intensity activities like walking to lower your cortisol, your stress hormone, and promote overall relaxation. And once you feel more comfortable with that, you can gradually start to incorporate short bursts of higher intensity exercise such as sprints, but just for very, very short times, so as not to spike that stress head cortisol. As I explained in my sprinting video, which you may or may not have seen, I'll put a link at the end, you have to think in terms of a few seconds or of fast running interspersed with a walk, rather than aiming for training for a half marathon or a couch to 5K. Yoga and Pilates are also excellent. The aim is to exercise but without raising your stress levels. But you do want to raise 𝐓𝐘𝐒, the human growth hormone. Lower intensity activities interspersed with short bursts of high intensity are going to do just that for you. Higher intensity sprints will make your body boost 𝐓𝐘𝐒, and it will also release those myokines, which is explained in my sprinting video, from your big leg muscles, which are going to flood the body and encourage it to build even more muscle, which is just like a really winning combination. You ditch the long duration stressful stuff like distance running, insanity classes, Ironman challenges, because they're in menopause, in this midlife period, they're no longer your friends, and harder doesn't necessarily mean better anymore, especially from midlife onwards. Next is sleep quality. You've got to aim for 6 to 8 hours of good sleep. You know what the sweet spot is for you. For me, it's about 7.5 hours. I'm going to cover this subject again more fully in another video, but be advised that, or even be warned that this is just not something we can afford to mess around with, because the latest scientific studies are attributing dementia to a chronic lack of sleep. I mean, just sleep. It's literally a life or death matter. So don't do as I used to, thinking sleep was just a complete waste of my time. You need sufficient sleep to regenerate your brain. That's when the brain does its healing. Try and create a restful atmosphere before bed. Avoid screens which emit these damaging blue lights for at least the last hour or two, even better, and consider dimming the lights overall to prepare your body for quality sleep. Unscented candles are good, as long as we don't set the house on fire, because low light tells the body it's nighttime, and bright screens and overhead lights are going to do the exact opposite, so make it much harder to relax. Nutrition. You need to prioritize eating good quality protein at every meal. Focus on quality dense proteins to support muscle maintenance, and try to avoid excessive sugar, or actually any sugar at all if you can, and opt instead for potassium rich and collagen rich foods. Intermittent fasting. Try to eat 3 meals a day without any snacking in between, which is going to give your liver a break. This will then help boost your 𝐓𝐘𝐒, human growth hormone, boost 𝐓𝐘𝐒 production. Eat your last bite of food 3 hours before your head hits the pillow, and then you'll go into a deep restorative sleep much faster without having digestion to finish first. If you're still digesting, your brain can't be going into its rest and repair cycle. And also late evening eating is just an absolute disaster from the perspective of our blood sugar levels too. It pushes the blood sugar up, insulin production has to increase, but insulin, being the hormone which controls blood sugar, is very low in the evenings. It's at its best when we wake up in the morning, and it's at its absolute feeblest late on in the day. So that's why eating late is a really bad idea. It just means we store more fat. Fasting is a huge subject, and again something I'm going to talk about more in a later video, because it's become an amazing tool for me, and also the benefits are absolutely massive. But you have to do it right. There's such a difference between feasting and fasting compared with binging and starvation. They are just worlds apart. If you fast correctly, you can introduce a state in the body called autophagy, which further helps your body to heal itself. It promotes faster cell turnover, or the recycling of dead, sick and ailing cells. And it's also been shown to be not so much anti-aging, but reverse aging, which is really exciting, isn't it? I mean, you just need to know this stuff, so I'm going to cover that subject very soon. Next one is stress management. Find ways to reduce stress, as high cortisol levels are detrimental to muscle preservation. This may sound really trite or easier said than done. for some of us, but managing our stress is another key player in our arsenal of personal healing strategies. Here's the ideal scenario. Engage in activities you enjoy and surround yourself with positive people. And here's the reality. Your boss is a cow, your deadlines are looming, and the childminder's just called in sick again, and the central heating is on the blink, and you now have a cold sore brewing. I know that stress is just absolutely off the scale for so many of us, but sometimes the first step is just being aware of it. First step towards finding ways to reduce your stress levels. You need to find your healthy, happy place and be sure to let yourself go there at least once a day, whatever that means for you. And if it doesn't involve alcohol or excessive coffee drinking, it's going to be so much the better for all the reasons I've given you so far. Next section is about specific exercises for arm fat. Let's just touch on some targeted exercises for those stubborn areas. You need to incorporate exercises like narrow grip push-ups, where you put your two hands together, and pull-ups and dips, things that specifically address muscle tone and strength. I've put a doorway pull-up bar here at home, which I bought inexpensively on Amazon. I'll put a link below. And I've progressed from being able to just do one pull-up from standing on a chair to now achieving a massive 5 to 6 pull-ups on a good day. But it did take me a year to get to that point, but where there's a will, right? Your body is an amazing machine and you can do anything that you put your mind to. These type of movements will help to tone and will also strengthen the muscles in your arms, but absolutely don't worry that you're going to start looking like a champion female bodybuilder, because there's a whole lot more effort required to reach that point. And you're just aiming for sleek and toned muscles, which muscle takes up less room than fat does. Even if you still weigh the same, you'll end up wearing smaller clothes. Because if you're working on your arms, it's going to benefit your whole body. All of these things benefit the whole body. And there are a billion resources on YouTube where you can find other people who will give you exercise routines with specific exercises to target arms. Next section is about addressing those dreaded hot flushes and other yucky menopausal symptoms. If you're experiencing hot flushes, disturbed sleep or brain fog, then you're not alone. Many women face these challenges during their menopause, and addressing symptoms can significantly improve your overall comfort and your life quality. Joining a support group is a really positive way to get to talk to others in your situation and just to feel like you're not alone. I want us on this channel to be a community. Sometimes just being able to talk to others, message back and forth with other people who understand what you've been through and who've dealt with the same issues can be such a massive help. So drop your comments below and let's get the conversation going. Also, consider lifestyle changes that include stress reduction for you with those techniques like yoga and meditation or breath work, which can all help with your symptoms or your symptom management. If your symptoms are unbearably severe, please do consult with a medical professional and get some tailored advice right just for you. At the beginning of my own menopause, when those hot flushes would literally start from my feet and I'd feel like a pot coming to the boil until I break out into this hot head sweat, I decided to give quitting sugar a go. And after reading an excellent book called I Quit Sugar, which is by Sarah Wilson, and I highly recommend anyone struggling with food addiction or carb addiction, as I was, to have a read of that. Hallelujah, it made an almost immediate difference. Sugar literally burns us from the inside and overheats us, which is a really basic, unsciency explanation, but you get the picture. I've shared this information with dozens and dozens of women since I discovered it for myself. Ditch the sweet stuff and you'll most likely ditch your hot flushes, as well as improving your overall body composition. So it's a complete win-win. In summary, tackling arm fat and improving overall skin tone does require a multifaceted approach, incorporating low intensity exercises, gradually introducing those high intensity bursts like the short sprints, but keeping them short to keep your nervous system nice and calm. Prioritise quality sleep by creating that calming evening routine. Focus on nutrition, the fuel you put in the tank. Ensure you consume enough quality protein. I aim for 1 gram per pound of my ideal body weight. And if that seems like a lot to you, then get this. The government guidelines on protein levels were set after World War II, during a time of food shortages and when there was still rationing. And they are really unrealistic and very outdated and very, very low. You need to eat enough. Eat less like a princess and more like a cowgirl. Us women have spent years under eating because it just wasn't considered seemly to be seen stuffing down great hunks of meat like a man. But look where that's got us. We've got osteoporosis, brittle bone disease, we've got visceral fat around our organs, and we've got fat everywhere else, and we've got low energy, and not to mention that bloody arm fat. So we need to remain vibrant and vital, and we need enough protein to be able to do that. And avoid the sugar and all the foods, the cheap, low quality carbs, which are quickly turned into sugar by our bodies. Excess carbs are always stored as, fill in the blank, you guessed it, stored as fat. Practice intermittent fasting to enhance your human growth hormone production. Try to stop eating at least 3 hours before you start counting sheep. Oh, quick aside here, if you're reading this in another language, that means the time you go to sleep. In the UK, we're given this analogy of counting sheep, hopping over a gate or through a gate because it's boring and repetitive and it's supposed to help you doze off to sleep. Try to delay starting to eat in the mornings for at least an hour after you wake up, and hey presto, you've already given yourself potentially 12 to 14 hours in every 24 when your body doesn't have to be working on digestion, so it can work on the other stuff like the healing, like producing the human growth hormone, all the things which are going to help your menopausal symptoms and help your overall body composition. And finally, manage your stress levels as best you can to prevent that excessive cortisol production. Engage in targeted exercises to strengthen your arm muscles, particularly those bat wing tricep flaps, which a younger me vowed I would never suffer from. How naive I was. But remember though that any change takes time, and it's essential to be patient with yourself. Nothing is going to be an overnight success. And if it is, then you need to question how good whatever that method was is really for your body. Drastic measures never address the root of a problem. All the strategies I've talked about have the longer term benefit of adding to your overall creation of a healthy body for you to live in, for pain management, for your quality of life, and for good mental health, for independence, and a lack of disease for the rest of your natural life. Those are my main aims, and all of my learning and teaching is focused towards those goals. By integrating these strategies into your daily routines, you can gradually improve your skin's elasticity and your muscle tone, and to be able to feel super proud of your amazing arms and your amazing body. So finally, I hope you found this video helpful. If you've struggled with similar issues or you have some tips of your own, please share them in the comment section below. I absolutely love hearing from you. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content on health and wellness, because together we can all support each other on our journeys to feeling our very best. Thank you for watching. See you next time.